Let's cool down.
Yeah, thank you very much, and welcome to Worlds Cooldown. We're going to look back at the first day of competition at Worlds 2018 in Seoul, and this is what you can expect after every show at Worlds. We're just going to cool down, literally, figuratively, I don't know, like both.
It was a spicy day.
So yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
Cool down.
It could have been better. I mean, we were already talking about it. We'll get into it.
lost, it
Yes.
would have been better.
Yes,
but
I'm still pissed off.
Yeah, well, you're going a bit fast. Let's first wrap up Group D. Of course, it ended with this clash we just saw of Gambit versus Chaos Latin Gamers. And I have to say, for my part, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, by how Gambit recovered after what honestly was a horrible first game out of them earlier in the day.
So they had a bit of time, and that's what I really value. Because remember, you get a lot of information off the first game. For them, it was the fact that they couldn't get out of the lanes. They were locked in these really tough laning bases, which is a very good team in the lane. So a lot of that was understanding that they just need better picks. And especially based off the draft that they were given here. I think that they had a lot of great counter pick options because enemy team just decided to power pick a lot.
Well, but I think with that you also say, how the hell did they get their hands on like Urgot and Akali and Kai'Sa and Brown?
This is definitely a draft where you kind of look at KLG and say, like, you know,
You
the
have
buffet,
everything.
take whatever you want.
Yeah.
They took everything, and I think they got a little bit too far down the rabbit hole with the Kindred pick. I think, you know, maybe a tank jungler of some kind would have been better for setting up these lanes because, you know, Gambit, while not using power picks, did have a pretty cohesive draft with Galio, Talia to go to side lanes and dive. And like you said, with the counter picks, they kind of had winning lanes. And so, you know, they did give up a lot to get that strategy working. And I think KLG could have done a little bit better job with the tools.
Yeah, to your point, Raz, I think it does speak in Gambit's favor that they gave a lot of those things over and had a well-crafted plan against it. However, my remark was kind of like, don't do that against every team. Probably. It's kind of a lot to give over, but I just also want to speak to the fact that they bounced back. You know, Edward had not a good game in his first game of the day. That Thresh was not something we're looking at. I really enjoyed his Alistar, for instance, now. Diamond, although his early jungling was not the best, like they rebounded pretty well, and that's what you need in this best-of-one scenario.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the fact that they were cool, calm, and collected in the sense that they understood that preparation, getting the draft was in order. So talking about the draft really paid off. But just individual performance. I understand that the Thresh, he was called Thresh historically. Like, he made his career, a lot of it off of, sure, the Sona, but the Thresh as well later on in Season 3. So didn't pay off, but he just went back towards the Alistar, and the Headbutt Pulves were actually paying off.
You talk about individual performances. Our MasterCard player of the game was Kira in this one. Well, Kira is someone that we've been following since the Albus Nox Luna days. That was kind of his breakout performances. And now I haven't really seen that much highlights from him in recent years on the international stage. So I hope we can see a bit more of that for Gambit.
He does still feel like one of the more consistent members for them. And I think this was a good game for him where his job was not smashing, you know, someone else in lane. It was about getting out with the rest of his team and working well with them. And like you said, they had set up in a lot of the lanes, and he was able to do a good job collapsing and being the biggest catalyst, as well as being able to say, you take Akali, I'll pick for the team.
And that's the thing. This team is so creative during the year. They've always been a team with the most hectic compositions. This time around, it was the most grounded comp imaginable. It must have been a boring game for that Galio, because honestly, it was like, find yourself in a side lane, now come back mid lane, and now just bulldoze through it, because Akali's not going to find it in side lane the moment they set up the side lane waves and just had a large enough wave to just bulldoze through. So I really like the fact that they were disciplined near the end of the game.
Yeah, I think that's what sometimes is lacking from them, is not being disciplined enough, so it was good to see.
Yeah, it was. So if we then tally up Group D so far, Chaos Latin Gamers left without a win, 0-2, Gambit at 1-1, and GRex, the surprise of the day, I would say, for many, maybe together with Detonation Focus Me, 2-0. Now, GRex is the third seed coming out of the LMS, and they definitely surprised me. They came out swinging. They had fantastic early games. MT was an absolute monster today. So for people who didn't catch the games, how good was he?
He was incredible. I think that his pathing to keep his lane safe was mostly important, because a lot of time it's actually on the lanes to make the jungles look good. If you're playing really well and communicating with your jungler, then it's easier for your jungler to go towards mid lane if he knows the waves piling up. A lot of that, MT had a great understanding where he needed to be. So he got his Skarner pick, he made it worthwhile, and I think that MT coming into this is a jungler to watch.
It was a group where we were saying it might be the most open group, and we haven't seen A and B yet, but so far, actually, compared to C, feels very separate, where it's like, here's GRex, dominant laners, still have pretty good team synergy, and, you know, Gambit and KLG are just not up to snuff quite yet. So, like, it does surprisingly feel like the more decided of the two groups.
I think that's fair. We are just setting up for an interview with Gambit as well, a winter interview. It is winter, I guess, right? In some parts of the world.
Not here.
Not everywhere.
It's hot.
All right. So in any case, when we then button up this group, it also means that Chaos Latin Gamers is left without a win. I'm definitely a bit disappointed what I've seen from them today. Now, when I was talking to their expert, Tommy, one of the casters of the CLS, I talked to him about Tyrolf, and I said, well, he's getting a lot of hype. You know, we looked at him a lot at MSI, and he said, well, there may be a chance that he goes a bit too far with all of that, and that it turns in from being aggressive to being too overconfident and too aggressive. And maybe that Kindred pick here and the play plays into that story. It's something we should track.
Yeah, the Kindred's one. The other one was the Xin Zhao. I think the largest disappointment for me for Tyrolf was that he's very brute force in a lot of the plays that he makes throughout the mid lane. There was one time throughout mid where I was like, he's camping for a kill. I was like, what are you trying to do here? Because Raz already got his base, so he doesn't need a base in that instance. You're either looking for a gank, but that's such a slow push that you're just going to be there for days. A lot of the time, in that moment, he actually just walked out, had to flash out because the counter gank came through. And so there are a lot of times that I'm wondering what he's trying to gain out of it, what the plan is, because it hasn't been thought through.
Oh, I don't want to just call one person out. I think for KLG, nothing is really working so far. What are your thoughts as to how this group is going to evolve? Is this GRex clear favorite #1, Gambit #2, or are things going to move?
For me, it feels pretty decided. Like I said, like GRex just looks too good individually for these guys to be able to break out of. I did like what I saw out of Gambit here, where like a very team map oriented game plan, and I would like to see that against GRex, where you don't have to worry about the individual matchups quite as heavily. But even then, like I said, I didn't feel like GRex looked bad in team situations, so I don't think they have a great chance versus them. And KLG with Tyrolf supposed to be like their big playmaker, hasn't seen that show up yet, is concerning.
And I still predicted Gambit near the end of the day to take it. I think we both did, because I was willing.
Nice to call it.
Oh, there you go. I was willing.
We can get a full screen soon.
Yeah, well, at some point.
Later.
We gotta stash it. I was willing to have some faith, because at first game, if you just lose every lane at that point, you can easily say, we'll just fix it off the draft.
Yeah.
You'll have some faith that when we get to the team fights, they're a great team fighting team, but they didn't get to that point. So now they had the opportunity, recognizing that, sure, the 3 incredible power picks were there, but the Akali has a lot of weaknesses. A lot of people just, I know in the LPL, a few teams just decide to give it away just because they know that they can either push into it and play through the 2v2 mid and go bot, or the Galio and just team fight it, because a lot of times Akali just doesn't have clear split push conditions. So that's the major takeaway, is that it's very difficult to play with an Akali once you get to those team fights.
Is that the main takeaway for KLG as a whole?
They need to recognize that lane phase is nice and all. There's a lot.
They need to think about team fights as well as the power picks and
There's a lot of things. The power picks are one point, the picks are one point, but also just a lot of it is just the subtlety in how they play. The vision control isn't very thought through, and support jungle are not really working
Basically, you say they have a lot of work to do. Well, we'll see them in day 3. Yeah, Raz is like, okay.
There's a lot.
So let's then move on to another team where there's a lot of work to be done. Just kidding. C9 in Group C they are reigning supreme so far. They are 2-0. Detonation Focus Me is currently in 2nd place, but man, was this dicey. If you guys didn't see this game, there's a bit of a spoiler, but MarkZ, break it down for us. What happened here?
Well, it was a game where they tried to branch out a little bit more. Usually when they take things like the Kindred, they want to combo with a Control Mage mid or a Galio or something. That didn't happen, and then apparently there's a chance there might have been some bad information. I was talking to Jat, and he said that he saw a tweet from Westrice where he said that the Kindred ultimate can be used.
Who is on the support staff for C9, right?
He's the assistant coach for C9. Said that you can use the Kindred ult while getting ulted by the Urgot and stop his ultimate. And then he deleted that tweet. He had a response to that tweet that is still up, which says it shouldn't work that way, but it does. So I couldn't find the original tweet because he deleted it. I couldn't confirm it
So
myself.
you're saying, just to be clear, that there was faulty information coming from the C9 support staff as to how that interaction works, which is probably because everyone's pitchforking Blabber for what happened in that game in the beginning, so...
Right. In the interview, he actually said, I was tanking them. Like, intentionally, it sounded like getting into fights with Urgot to bait the ultimate out, and then he would just get ulted and killed, because you can't drop it during it. So I don't quite know what they thought happened. It's nice if you get a QSS, and then you can ult whoever Urgot ults and save yourself, but they didn't prioritize the QSS.
Yeah.
The accuracy of the Urgot, for me, was just stark, because he was hitting him every single time. I think Urgot ulti, it's really making a name for itself in terms of how often it's being missed. It's compared to like the Verisalt. But this time around, it's been hitting Blabber multiple times, and he wasn't going towards the QSS. He wasn't prioritizing it, obviously. Got a third item, and that's a pretty pricey build that he actually got from
But in the end, they got it, and Cloud9 turns it
There we
around.
go.
And I just wanted to jump on that you said, the Urgot ult, but Evie was destructive on that pick, and that Nation Focus Me in general really had a good showing here today.
Yeah, very good. The fact that Evie in team fights, because he's been great in lane, but when he brings it to the team fights on the Urgot, that's just destroying a lot of what the composition for C9 was really being built for, is to out-survive. And so if you don't have the ultimate coming in from Kindred, then you're really waiting on Lissandra, and that's not a lot of time if you're comparing the tanks that Urgot's being able to, buy some time with.
Yeah, I think Detonation had the best combination of like power picks plus their own meta working together. I think a lot of their comps made sense where they're taking Varus and Kindred, but they're also slapping a Karma in the mid lane, which no one else is really doing. And then here with the Ziggs to be able to survive the dive, and then Urgot would just go like 1v3 the backline. So I liked a lot of what I was seeing from them.
I agree. We going to an interview in just a second. I want to button up kind of the C9 story. And you, MarkZ, were like, being such a fan of NA during that game, you were ready to say, like, I heard things like, well, if C9 gets through and get in a group, they're going to lose anyway. So
Hold
what
on.
do you have to
I
say for
said
yourself?
Group B specifically.
All right.
I said Group B is the group of death. Everyone says that.
Yeah.
Like, I was saying, even if C9 loses this game, I'm actually not too upset because it's like, I want to see, like, if they end up in the second seed and you have to play versus G2 or EDG, is that really that much worse than getting just thrown into Group B? I was saying C9 actually has other routes forward beyond just like get one seed,
All right.
beat a two
Okay.
seed.
It's a hard life for NA right now.
Yeah, no, it's good. I like it. Just wanted to throw you under the bus.
No,
a little bit.
I
Yeah,
love-
we're
I
just
love
get to
being
know
under the
each other on the desk for the first time. We need to throw out some punches. However, I'm going to deflect because we have Avalie standing by as she caught up with Diamond Prox after their win.
I'm here with Diamond MarkZ, the jungler for Gambit. Congratulations on that win. And in that last game, you guys looked a lot more composed and put together than game one. So what really clicked and what needed to happen for you guys to come together as a team?
I think we just needed to lose. Yeah, when we put ourselves in a situation where our backs are against the wall, that's where we play the best.
Well, that's perfect. High pressure, high stakes. That's what Worlds is all about. And I mean, speaking of which, last year you guys had a kind of a rough showing at Worlds. So what does it really mean to the team to end today on a win?
I think it means a lot for the team to not go 0-2 in the first day, because otherwise, like, everyone was going to think if something has changed over the year. Like, we know that a lot has changed and we improved a lot, like as a team, as a players. But when you will still go 0-2, something might go wrong in your mind, and your mindset might be like somewhat bad. But now we showed that we are better than the year before, that we can actually win games, and now it's only up to us to continue this kind of like play in the future.
And from what I understand, you guys didn't have an easy path to get here to Worlds today. So what really was your journey like to kind of achieve Worlds?
Oh, it was a crazy journey, actually. If Spring Split was kind of easy, and then MSI was really fun but hard, but then we didn't have much break between MSI and future tournaments like Rift Rivals, and then we had some like random tournament in Russia that we played also. So without rest, we played all the tournaments, I think, really good, but we were very, very tired during the whole summer split season, like even regular season. We were very tired, and because of that, we struggled a lot, even like getting out of the regular season. We were 2 times we were 1 game away from not getting to playoffs, and then after we got to playoffs, in the first semi-final we were down 0-2, and then we're about like to lose the 4th game too, but somehow miraculously we managed to come back and win the whole thing and then get the world. So that's pretty great. Like, this whole year for us is, I think, a really good showing that we can do good as a team. But Worlds obviously is the biggest stage, and we want to prove that we can do good things even on the biggest stage.
Busy split. Sounds like you put in a lot of hard work, and today it paid off. Wish you the best of luck with your upcoming games this week, and thank you so much.
Well, there we go. Thank you so much, Avalie. Wonderful interviews. Your first day at Worlds as well. Diamond had a lot to say. He just wanted to emphasize that it's been a busy year, but getting a win at the end is good because you don't want to go 0-2.
Look, it was just a deep sigh. because he mentioned it. They had a lot to go through the entire split. There was a real slump there. And remember, just a nitpick, just a little tidbit is that for Summer Split, a lot of the teams that really focused on their AD carries took a big hit just because it was a mage bruiser meta. And so this was a big problem where they really focused on the young gun and Lodic. And so when a lot of that's not going to plan, they have to change their style or really just power through. So a lot of that was hitting them at the same time.
All right, let's take a look then at the standings. With that, Gambit saves their bacon a little bit and goes 1-1 in the end in Group D. GRex is there reigning supreme, KLG without a win. And then the tally up for Group C, Cloud9 2-0, Detonation Focus Me 1-1. And Kaboom, we haven't mentioned them yet, went 0-2 today. They opened up the day by losing to Cloud9 and then also lost to Detonation Focus Me. I'm definitely a bit disappointed. I'm not going to say the CBLOL teams have been amazing in the last couple of years, but they've always done better than this, right? They've definitely put up a fight in the group stages. So I wonder if they're going to bounce back.
Yeah, they've punched above their weight a few times. Better than what's happening here. I think this is a major upset between LJL and CBLOL, the fact that this has happened. That being said, they've had great nuggets, like the fact that the laning phase has been good in one of their games, and I thought the team fights have been back to forward. It's just the result is what matters. And so for them to lose a lot of these crucial team fights is just not working out for them in day one.
It's definitely disappointing, but it's nice to see for the LJL on the flip side because they've been one of the regions that at MSI play-ins and world play-ins have always come up not just short, but like usually on the bottom. And it's nice to see them finally starting to climb that ladder, which is what you want to see out of emerging regions.
Absolutely agree. Fantastic job by them. Let's also take a look at our predictions so far. They were horrible from my side, at least, I think.
I think I did all right. Let me see. I got one wrong.
2 correct.
Oh! It's almost as if me and Mark literally just went through the exact
It's almost like you guys are actual analysts.
Yeah, that. And so I was like, I don't know how, but like whoever I'm doing predictions with, we always end up pretty similar. Like Jat and I always have the same predictions, it feels like. Now Raz and I apparently.
It's fair to say also that I think a couple of things did go against expectation. We all got that Kaboom one wrong because we thought they would come out a bit stronger. And then Detonation Focus Me surprised a lot of people. So I wasn't sure Gambit was going to bounce back. They did. So
a lot of these are really clear-cut groups too. C and D felt like it was going to be very easy. I think the major surprise, as you already mentioned, was Detonation Focus Me coming out ahead. I hope we get more of that. I just hope that the next time we get something like this, they can finish the game. You know, Elder Dragon,
so
Baron, just get it. It's unfortunate.
Well, they have another
happen.
chance in 2 days against
Yeah,
C9.
yeah,
I think in
hopefully.
general, it's cool that the groups aren't exactly playing out as clear-cut as you think. Like GRex coming out so swinging is throwing that group a bit into disarray as well. So will be exciting to see how that evolves.
Yeah, even just their first win over Kaboom is just like, this is what we were saying, you know, you want to see out of Worlds is that things don't go according to plan. That's what makes it the most exciting point of the year is that all these kind of bubbles that are isolated from each other finally start interconnecting and nothing ever sticks to the plan.
Yeah, great plan, and also some players, great plan, great point, nothing sticks to the plan, but our MasterCard players of the game did follow the plan, so we have a couple of those. In the first game, we saw C9 Licorice pop absolutely off. He destroyed Kaboom almost on his own, right? So I think even though he had kind of a questionable Lissandra in the last game, I think he deserves praise for his World's debut on day one.
Definitely a fighter player for the most part,
Yes.
does play some tanks. Lissandra as a mage, not exactly his specialty, but you saw what he can do when on his comfort picks and absolutely destroyed in the first game.
Star of the day, Empty from GRex. This guy, yeah, he absolutely deserved. He set up everything for that team, and they had 2 very convincing
And
wins.
remember, this team was the one that had a lot of questions about their jungle position. They couldn't bring in Raze, the Korean jungler, because they already had 2 in their roster. And so Empty should have been, like, between him and Bebe, they bought in both of them, one of the weaker ones. But I thought the last series that he had in the Gauntlet tournament was very strong. So they gave him the shot, and he's already just, it's paying off.
I'm saying thank you for that spot. And
Yeah, there we go. I'm going to take it.
Canadian born as well, so there's a total of 4 North American players on that board.
All right, so tomorrow there's, well, more games, 6 more games, and also 6 more teams making their Worlds 2018 debut. Groups A and B are going to start their run. Oh man, EDG versus Infinity, G2 versus Supermassive, Direwolves Infinity, Ascension. Oh man, this is so incredibly exciting. So let's talk about some of these matchups and some of these groups. I'm looking at maybe the first game. Let's start with that. Let's do chronological because I want to talk about G2 Supermassive.
And I love the fact you're doing that because EDG, 3rd seed from China. I really want to see more from this team because if we're talking about LPL specific, a lot of us, the analysts in the LPL, didn't expect this team to go through. We expect them to be 4th/5th, you know, top team in the LPL. but they, at the Gauntlet tournament, beasted through Jingdong Gaming, went straight through Rogue Warriors, and while these names don't mean much to the audience, that just showcases that they were really bursting out at the very end off the carry pick of iBoy, really paying off in his Kai'Sa pick, Scout doing really well on his Rise, and I thought that the team fights were just really coming out.
And I thought it's interesting that they're up against the LLN because if you remember last year, for the 1-2 seed matchup to get out of the play-in stage, it was Lion versus WE. So they have a little bit of history in the play-in stage between the LPL and the LLN.
Yeah, that they do. We talked a lot today about teams that went through the gauntlet, started off strong here. I think the same could probably go for EDG. You know, they had to fight in that gauntlet, though. Let's not mince word here. It was very, very close. They had to come back. They had 5 games, but in the end, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, very tough. And I think that going into the specific series, a lot of the history that you've talked about is going to be very true today. The fact that, or at least tomorrow, I suppose, the fact that they're going up against really tough, like great players. Koto Paco, the mid laner for the team, is a very strong Rise pick. So that's a shared champion pool between the two of them. They have a Rookie of the Year 80 carry down there. We're going to be talking a lot about him tomorrow. And so great 80 carries coming out of the LLN is something that we see quite often.
Will be exciting. The last I was gonna say, I want to make a pun about Direwolves, like a wolf in the group or whatever. But anyway, Direwolves are the 3rd team in that group. So for me, it's much like a thing of like, okay, I think it could be pretty clear cut that EDG obviously gets first and then Infinity will show up strong. But I don't really know. Now with the Surenfire ban in the first couple of games, Direwolves look absolutely gutted. Let's be honest.
That was the big problem is that Surenfire, before joining on Direwolves, you know, Direwolves were 0-4 or something in terms of like titles won, and then he joins and they win the next 4.
Yeah.
So you can see Surenfire was basically the catalyst for this team's rise, and then to lose him for the first 2 games in a group where potentially you could have upset the LLN is very disappointing.
I actually had coming into this, because I was just looking at all of these groups, and I thought that Direwolves was going to be coming in as a 2nd seed. Even though Infinity is a great team fighting team and they have some great players, the jungle position, Surenfire is very good. And he really directs a lot of the early game play and flow. So he's a great communicator from like hearing from the team. And the fact that they've lost an incredible team fighter communicator has a lot in terms of the champion pool. Loses direction. A lot of the players now you're looking towards King in the bottom lane. Maybe he has to stop being a team fighter and slow early game player, and he has to go back to the old King. You know, someone that takes risks, because someone has to do that now if they have a chance here.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Maybe it's kind of out of nowhere. They didn't play without boundaries or whatever. We'll have to see tomorrow. It'll be very interesting. Before we go, though, just want to quickly touch also on Group B, Supermassive, Ascension, and G2 Esports. And G2 versus Supermassive is the first game we see out of that group. There's a lot of divided opinions, so I'm just going to let you guys kind of shortly state what you think about the 2 teams and how they're going to match up.
Go first.
Oh, really? Because I thought this was where Raz was going to go, and I was going to slowly shift out of frame.
I can do it.
All right,
I can
you
do
want
it.
to do that shot?
Let's do it.
Okay, we're
Let's
going
do
to this
it.
camera.
I'm going. Where is he? One of these cameras, I'll find out how you're doing. So immediately, for me, when it comes to Supermassive, I think one of the best players coming out of it, one of the best players coming out of the group stage, the play-in stage, is legitimately Snowflower. I think they have some very strong players in the bottom lane. So just from that matchup, dot it out in your calendar. I think Supermassive is going to take it. Already. I'm just putting it out there. Best of 1. Bottom lane. Look at the bottom lane.
The gauntlet has been thrown. Verius has really strong feelings about G2, and I'm just going to jump in because obviously I'm from Europe, so I am supporting, or from the EULCS rather, so I am supporting G2 Esports. I mean, I think you make a good point about the bottom lane, but it's also a bit overblown because Yarnan, people always like to say bad things about Bjarne, and he's so absolutely terrible, but he really isn't if you look statistically. I do think they have an advantage, but in the rest of the map, G2 should just have that game.
That's how I feel. It's like, even if you are right that Zeitnot destroys Hjarnan or something, like, you still have Caps versus GBM. Even if it does happen, you still have Caps versus GBM.
Yeah.
It's discussing mismatch.
If you're asking me who wins in a best
Oh, excuse me, Perks versus GBM.
I know we all want to watch Caps, but tomorrow is Perks, who's also really good.
If you're asking me who wins in a best of 5, I think it comes down to G2. But remember what happened in MSI? MSI was a big takeaway of surprising players. Now, even though I take a look at the bottom lane, a lot of it was actually on GBM as well. We didn't expect much from GBM coming into the tournament at MSI, and in group stage, he came out as the look-see player. So his split pushing is great. I think they have a lot of great players on that roster that we should be watching out now for, and it's going to be on G2 to really just play the game slowly.
I do think it's going to be a phenomenal matchup. That is for sure. We'll have to see how it plays out. However, we're going to sign off for us here today. The first day at Worlds. We're going to call it at night at Lowell Park as well. So for myself, the casters, everyone, the live broadcast crew, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for more of Worlds 2018.